I'm Reverend Phil, and I'm your host for Words of the Prophets. Where are our prophets now? Where are those messengers God chooses to communicate divine revelation through? In the past, the Creator sent prophets like Abraham, Siddhartha, Jesus, Muhammad, and many more. Maybe our higher power has switched tactics since we reinterpret God's words as soon as the Creator's prophets leave us. Could it be that Spirit talks to each one of us individually and we haven't learned to listen? On Words of the Prophets, our modern prophets show us how to find the internal prophet that is the I Am, and we discuss the application of spiritual principles in all aspects of our lives.
Love and light, everybody. I'm Reverend Phil, and I'm your host for Words of the Prophets. Today, my guest is Carol Parker. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Phil.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you. For those of you, just to give you a little background, which we'll expand on a little bit more, Carol is a PhD and an LPCC and is the director of the Transformational Echo Psychology Certificate Program at Southwestern College here in Santa Fe. Carol is also a Vision Quest guide, spiritual trek leader, and ceremonialist. Yeah, I can understand what that was. And has been a psychotherapist for many years. And today's prophetic topic is Change the World. And this topic comes from a statement attributed to Chief Seattle and reads as follows. A task without a vision is just a job. A vision without a task is just a dream. A vision with a task can change the world. So what we're going to be talking about today is Vision Quest, what they are, how do we go about them. But even before we do that, Carol, can you just let people know how you came to be doing this kind of work, came to lead Vision Quest? How did you get into this?
Well, I think I got really sort of almost frustrated with being a therapist after a while. I'd been doing it for maybe 20 years, and I had the feeling there were more effective ways to help people with deep transformation in their lives. And I kind of stumbled around with that for a while, thinking, what would it be? What would it be? And I mean, truthfully, what happened was I was on an airplane from the Midwest, where I was living at the time, out to the Southwest, and I sat next to a woman who told me she was a Vision Quest guide. And I just said, "What's that?" And she explained how people went out into the wilderness in the old way, the indigenous way. They would fast for 4 days at a time, that there would be ceremonial preparation and so on. And she explained the whole thing, and that's what she did for a living. And I got hooked, really, in that moment.
And that started this. How does this fit in with whatever spiritual belief practices you have? Is it outside of it? Is it complementary to it? How do you?
Well, I meditated for many years. I had actually more than one teacher in the Vedic tradition of India, and that was a wonderful start for my spirituality. But I still felt like there was something not quite full for me. I didn't know what it was. And it turned out really to be the wilderness piece, the land piece, the Mother Earth piece. And when I heard this woman talking about Vision Quest, I thought for me, that's the missing piece.
Is this piece, how do I want to say this, more current, like Native American as opposed to ancient shamanism, or is there a blend? How does that fit together?
Well, Vision Quest, as you know, has been done for thousands of years. In this country, the Lakota people have been taking their young people out to the mountain, doing Vision Quest ceremonies as a rite of passage for eons, nobody knows how long. It's well known in the Plains Indians in this country, and also in other shamanic traditions or old traditions, indigenous traditions around the world. It's different forms in different tribes. The way we know it in this country is you go out on the mountain and you fast for 4 days and 4 nights. That would be perhaps the most well-known version of Vision Quest.
Okay. Before we get into all the particulars, there's a couple of things. You What is transformational eco-psychology?
Well, that's what we came up with for a name of a program at Southwestern College, and it has to do with earth-based healing ways. And they're primarily from indigenous teachers. We bring in great medicine people really from Canada, from this country, also from Peru, to teach earth-based healing methods.
That kind of sounds unique. Is Southwest College kind of on the forefront of that stuff? Or, because you don't normally associate those two disciplines.
Well, we
so
like
to
to think that we're on the forefront, and I think actually in a certain way we are. There are other eco-psychology programs around the country, a few. I think the way that we're unique is that we emphasize experiential. There's some reading, there's some academic, but it's the majority of the time that people spend in that program is experiential, and it's out in the wilderness. It's on the earth.
It would seem like you couldn't do this just by reading a book. I mean, doesn't it always have to be experiential?
One would hope, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't go learn how to swim by just picking up a book. I mean, you got to dive into the pool.
Well, people get introduced to the whole idea of healing ways that are earth-based, oftentimes through reading some of the really good literature on that topic. But then, of course, they've got to go out and do it.
Got to go out and do it.
Yeah, you got to
So,
take them out.
in order to get your degree there, you have to go out and do this 4-day.
It's a certificate program. It's actually not a
Okay.
degree. It's kind of like an adjunct. We have several certificate programs at Southwestern College. One of them is the eco-psychology, and it's an adjunct to the master's program.
I think that's great. I mean, because I'm in the counseling field myself, and there's not enough spirituality. I've talked about this on other shows, that so many people just kind of like see them as separate and do not combine them, and I think that they're really doing a disservice to their clients when they don't.
Well, I agree, and I think most people at Southwestern College are at that college because there's the basis, really, of the foundation of the college is spiritual. It's ecumenical. We have people from many lineages attending college there, but they're all getting their masters in either counseling or art therapy, and there's a spiritual component in every class, really, that's taught. Then if they choose to emphasize a particular aspect like the eco-psychology, in that case it would be earth-based spiritual healing traditions.
I support it. I think it's great. I mean, I don't want to get into past shows, but really, like I said, we ignore I have a hard time with hardcore, just straight up therapy, because it tells me, for instance, that if I pray too much, I'm obsessive and compulsive. If I think God talks to me, I must be schizo. It's like, get me out of here. School of Lost Borders, what's that?
Well, that is a school, really, that, I don't know if you say teaches, facilitates Vision Quests and also Vision Quest training. And they've been in business for over 30 years. That's where I took my training in Vision Quest facilitation. And they are amazing. Stephen Foster and Meredith Little started the school many years ago out of seeing a need that people needed to get on the earth for transformation. And some of their teachers were amazing medicine men and women who taught them the old ways, and then they brought it forward for contemporary modern people to be able to do that old ceremony. We make it a little bit, I wouldn't say easy, more comfortable for modern people to get out there. For example, we do a lot of preparation work so that they know how to take care of themselves in the wilderness, what some of the risks are, and that sort of thing. So the teaching at School of Lost Borders, for me, was absolutely invaluable in providing that foundation of knowledge and experience.
I'm going to make the assumption people could find that on the internet, just
Oh,
School
absolutely.
of Lost Borders, and get all the information they want.
They're very well known internationally. And yes, that's the name of their website, actually.
Okay, School of Lost Borders.
Yeah.
So what is a Vision Quest?
Well, It starts the minute that you even think the thought, it seems like, for people. They think, I think I need some sort of rite of passage. I've heard this term vision quest. I maybe even know something about it. That's when it starts. And it might be months before you actually get out there and do it. But what you do actually is, the way we run a vision quest is we'll have 8 or 10 people participating in a vision quest at one time. We'll gather them well ahead of actually going out to the site. For example, in March I'm taking a group to Death Valley. In September I'm taking a group to Canyon de Chelly in Arizona, where we work with some Navajo people there. So, but well before we actually go out on the land, we'll do preparation. Lots of people don't know a whole lot about wilderness camping, for example. They don't know what kind of equipment to bring or clothes to bring. So we start them from ground zero if necessary and teach them everything they need to know in terms of keeping themselves safe and keeping themselves also in line with the ceremonial aspect of it. So we teach something about that as well. It's a ceremony. It's not just wilderness camping.
What is the ceremony like? And I assume when you say, I mean, I understand you and maybe other people are going to be there co-facilitating the ceremony.
Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
What is it? I mean, what?
Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a kind of visual on it. So we drive out to Death Valley. Let's take that as an example. We gather at a certain time in the base camp site, designated base camp site. We're out probably, where I take people is about 30 or 40 miles away from the nearest civilization. It's in Death Valley National Park, but it's a remote site. It's little used by tourists, so we're out there alone. And the first thing we do is set up base camp, which means we're going to be in base camp together for a couple of days. That means we set up the tents, we set up the camp stoves. It's group camping, really.
Let me back this up just for a second. Why Death Valley? Why Canyon de Chelly? I mean, do you choose specific sites, or can you do this anywhere?
Well, people want to be alone. I mean, what do I say? How do I say this? They want to be away from civilization.
Okay.
That's part of why people would even sign up for something like this. There's a sense of needing to sever from ordinary life, from the multitasking, from the 2 jobs, from all the responsibilities. So there's a sense of needing to do that. So the wilderness is really important. So having a remote site that's not heavily touristed is number one.
That gives you the privacy to disconnect.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you couldn't take a campsite up on the mountain here in Santa Fe. That wouldn't work.
You could if you were far enough away from the regular hiking trails.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And do you choose sites not only for their isolation, but are they like sacred sites? Or do we bring the sacredness with us?
Well, all wilderness is sacred. I mean, there's a way that you access the sacred more easily, let's say, in a wilderness site. I mean, we have some, safety factors. For example, you have to be able to get a 4-wheel drive into pretty close to where the base camp is. For example, if somebody got injured, you'd want to be able to transport them easily. So you're not, although some people also do backpacking vision quests, so you might choose a site that's away from where you're parking your vehicles and go way back in. That's also possible.
Okay, so before I interrupted you, we were setting up base camp. What happens
Oh,
next?
okay. So that evening you have your first meeting, and it is a ceremony. You begin the ceremonial, you create ceremony right away. You open with ceremony. It depends on who the leaders are, how they might set that up. It might be a prayer, it might be a song, it might be a traditional pipe ceremony. It depends on who the leaders are. Some people might be doing some drumming, but you set the sacred space immediately, and you invite Spirit to be with you throughout the duration of the 10 days that you're out there.
Are these people, part of the training do they get that, what the ceremony is, they practice the ceremony?
Yeah,
or?
absolutely.
Okay.
And like I said, different facilitators will bring different spiritual lineages, if you will, to that ceremony. Some people are more comfortable with praying. Some people are more comfortable with doing like I said, a ceremonial pipe. So you can bring different spiritual elements to the ceremony. It's not, this one that we do is really draws on various traditions. It's not from one tribe, let's say. It draws on various traditions. But the core of it, which is the 4 days of fasting alone in the wilderness, that is pretty traditional, and you can look to some of the tribes of North America to see where that came from.
At what point during those 10 days does the 4 days of fasting start?
Well, again, it kind of depends on the facilitators. The preparation time can be 2 or 3 or even 4 days in base camp, and also allowing people time to wander around in the area. Like in Death Valley, there's lots of room to wander around. It is immense. But we set a parameter of about 2 miles from base camp for people to find their solo site.
So we're fasting by ourselves. We're not fasting as a group.
You're fasting by yourself. In the format that we use, you're fasting by yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you check in on these people to make sure that they're okay as they're doing this? I mean, how do you know that? I mean, how does people know if they can fast for 4 days and actually be okay with it?
I mean, we do a good medical check on everyone ahead of time.
Okay.
If they have some serious medical condition, it may not be wise for them to fast. Their doctor may say, don't fast, However, to some degree, we can accommodate that. For example, there may be some people who need to take a little bit of food out with them, for example, because of a certain medical condition.
Okay.
And so we can make certain accommodations, because truthfully, what people find is being alone in the wilderness is very transformational. It's very deepening. It doesn't require necessarily that you go without food for 4 days. But we encourage that, because that's what happens is if you forego your usual comforts, including food, generally people have a more profound experience.
But they're allowed to have water, I would say.
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
Now, there may be some traditions where water is not allowed, but for most modern people who aren't used to being out in the wilderness, that may be too difficult. The body may be too toxic. We're not used to it, so it can be a risk factor. So we definitely have everyone have water out there.
I want to talk about this being alone. I find it fascinating. I mean,
Okay.
Knowing my own personal experiences. I mean, like even when I first started meditation, the idea of just being alone with my own thoughts for even a few minutes, well, that was kind of a strange experience. And you're saying like we got 4 days of just like nothing but ourselves.
Right.
I mean, how do you prepare for that? How do you...
Well, first of all, you're not alone. You've got wild nature all around you. You've got trees or bushes. You've got oftentimes animals that will... when you're that alone, when you're that quiet for that amount of time in the wilderness, the animals come by to see who's there, They aren't as afraid. So you're not really alone.
But all you have is your own thoughts. I mean,
Well, yeah. The thing that happens, though, with fasting, for people who have fasted before, you may sometimes notice that the ability to hold a linear thought is lessened. So after 4 days of fasting, you're not thinking a whole lot. What happens is you often find a place of being and quiet and silence, inner silence, that you haven't perhaps ever known before. that can be one of the transformational aspects.
Yeah, I could see that. Can you I don't know if it's too personal, could you describe your first Vision Quest experience?
Sure.
I'm fascinated by this whole process. It just
You'll be on the next one, right?
it's thought. I mean, the idea. I mean, you know, I meditate, but I can't begin to imagine just like sitting there for, you know, what do you do? I mean, you just let yourself go. Whatever thought comes to your head, you explore. You try to get rid of it. How does this work?
There's no prescription. With a Vision Quest, there's no prescription about what you do with your thoughts. It actually starts happening to you that you become more interested in the environment oftentimes. You become quieter inside naturally. It's a natural process, really. In the form we use, we encourage people to wander about a little bit, not just to sit in one circle, although
Okay.
that is traditional. Some people choose that. But if someone needs to wander about in the environment a little bit, we encourage that, because sometimes amazing things happen with the tree that's just over there on the hill, or some experience that one has following an ant through the sand. People have various experiences with elements of nature that they've never had before, because they have never been that quiet before. And they've never had it clears up your perception. That's one thing fasting does. So they've never had such clear perceptions before of the elements of nature. So it becomes quite fascinating oftentimes to simply be with what's around you, or to wander around a bit and see who's in the neighborhood.
Do we start this, when I say we, whoever goes out on this, do you start with, and I know I bring it back to meditation. I start my meditation with a stated intention at each time. Are people going out there for, like specifically to have the experience? Or are they going out there that like, I'm going to have this experience because I'm going to ask this question, I'm expected to get an answer?
Intention is everything. I mean, that's what our medicine people tell us, and all over the world, really. Intention is everything. Intention is very important. To use a more modern terminology, maybe you'd say co-creation with spirit involves human intention. So we won't let anyone go out unless we know that they have an intention for their own healing, for the healing of someone else dear to them, for some... For example, just a really simple example that comes up fairly often, people go out on Vision Quest because they've lost their creativity. They feel blocked in their creativity. So that kind of person might intend to open up their creative inspiration again. Another really common reason is...
So it's an internal thing then. I mean,
Yeah.
Because when you said creativity, it's like, I'm going to go out there and find a new muse. It's going to be like, I'm going to open up what's inside of me and get that unblocked.
It might be very personal like that.
Okay.
For some people, young people especially, they may want to know what their mission in life is. You know, what is my mission? Why am I here? That may be their intention, is to get clarity on their mission in life. Another really common one is people have gone through a major loss. Maybe a divorce, or someone dear to them has died, some big loss, and they are knowing that they're starting a new phase of life, but they're not clear what the flavor of it is. So their intention is to find out, what is this transition for me? What's coming for me? Where do I need to put my energies now?
So if I go out there with an intention, whatever that is, let's say I'm just blessed and I get the answer in 2 days. Do I still have to do the other 2 days, or do I just say I'm done?
Well, again, it depends on what tradition that you're fasting in. The form that we use, that person might come back to base camp. They might sit with the leaders and say, I'm done, I got it. And we would listen to what they're saying. And then we most likely, although not always, we most likely will say, now go back and complete the ceremony.
Okay.
because there might be more. And oftentimes there is more, actually.
Is there ceremony within the ceremony? I mean,
Yeah.
So what do I do during those 4 days that's ceremonial? Do I build fires? I mean, what am I?
Well, you can, depending on where you are. Sometimes there's fire regulations or
Okay.
something. We have to always attend to that. But we would encourage you, and we teach you during the preparation time about self-generated ceremony, self-created ceremony, different ceremonies that people have. We give examples of what people have done out there ceremonially for themselves. It can be really simple, like let's say you are allowed to have a small ceremonial fire. One very simple ceremony, and people do it at home as well, is they write down things that they're letting go of that no longer serve them, and they burn it in the fire.
Okay.
That would be called maybe a self-created ceremony.
Okay.
And there are numerous ones of those self-created ceremonies that we help people understand how to do that for themselves when they're out there.
A couple of weeks back, I did a show on shamanism, and we talked about the shamanic journey.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see if my understanding is correct. The shamanic journey is basically an out-of-body experience. The vision quest is an inner-body experience.
I'm not sure if I can make those kind of differentiations
Okay.
with Vision Quest. A Vision Quest is most certainly a journey, and you are relating to the environment. You're relating to the elements around you, the animals that might come by, what the weather's doing. All kinds of things happen out there that have a kind of mythological or archetypal aspect and might speak to you in some way, or you might experience some message for you. So it's definitely a journey in that regard. The inner plane, on the inner plane, people will often experience very vivid dreams. They might experience message type of dreams. They might have profound insights that they ordinarily might not have in their busy lives. They don't even have time for deep insights. They might have an epiphany kind of experience, an major
Okay.
aha experience. Again, because modern life tends to make it difficult. There's not room or space or enough silence oftentimes in modern life for those things to come through. So the Vision Quest allows both the inner and the outer journey to happen more easily.
You talked about having dreams. We follow a normal, natural rhythm of sleep as part of that each day.
Yeah, although we do encourage one, I guess you'd say, traditional ceremony on the last night, which is to stay up all night and to stay awake all night.
Okay.
And see what comes by staying awake all night.
When we talked about this Vision Quest, you talked about there were 3 stages. Can we,
Sure.
define them?
Yeah, the first stage is severance, and that's when, that's, like I said, that starts happening when you first think, I want to go on a Vision Quest. Because automatically what happens is your psyche starts removing yourself a little bit from your ordinary activities. And then once you get out there, say Death Valley, for example, severance happens in a really big way because you are no longer engaged. Your cell phone is turned off. For 10 days, you will not be leaving this place.
Mm-hmm.
You have no contact with the outside world, and it's truly a severance from all your ordinary responsibilities.
Let's say a partners go out and do this, but they don't do their ceremony together. They do it separately. If I went with my wife, she would be over here and I'd be out over here somewhere. Or do we do it together? Or
You would, again, we'd work with you to see, is this a partnership Vision Quest, meaning are there some common intentions
okay.
that have to do with the partnership? Or is it really your journey and her journey sort of as separate individuals.
So it can be done together.
It can be, although even in that case we would suggest that your sights be a ways away, that you not be in visual proximity.
Okay. So now we're at the third stage?
Oh, no, the second stage.
Second stage, okay.
That's called the threshold stage, at least in some quarters that's what it would be called. And that is when you are in the fasting time and when you're alone, and it's you and Mother Nature and Spirit. And that's called the threshold time. And the way we talk about it is you are in spirit, you are not in your ordinary human form anymore.
How do you prepare for that? Do you prepare for that?
Yeah, ceremonially you prepare for it. One way we do that is when it's the morning of the time for leaving base camp, each person individually would step into the medicine wheel that we create on the ground, and they would step into the middle of the medicine wheel one by one. We would smudge them, we would say some prayers, and then as they leave the medicine wheel, then at that moment they are in silence and they are in spirit for the next 4 days and 4 nights.
Let's before we get to stage 3, I know we have set up over here a medicine wheel, and everybody's got to pretend the candles are lit because we can't have fire. We're like a national park. You can't light a match in here.
Right.
You want to explain the medicine wheel and what it does and why it's part of this?
Well, I'm going to give a really, really brief version of medicine wheel. I mean, a traditional medicine person, would probably be horrified at this, but so that's one of the teachings we do on Vision Quest, is we give people the medicine wheel as a kind of map for healing. And the medicine wheel really is all over the world in different forms. So people have learned something about medicine wheel oftentimes from this or that tradition. But all medicine wheels teach two things, it seems to me. One is we are not separate from nature. That's really important. And the second thing is how it teaches us how to balance ourselves in ourselves, with our communities, and with Mother Nature.
Well, we've got on the table here, you've got a cloth. We have 4 what appears to be crystals, and we got 4 candles of different colors. Can you explain the crystals, the colors? Is there a direct relationship that goes on in this circle or this wheel?
I'm just using the candles and the stones to show the colors of each shield or each direction. And again, this will vary some depending on what tradition you are following. This one particular wheel comes from the Cheyenne tradition. And just really briefly, the south is red in this wheel, and it is the life stage of the child, and it has to do with the season of summer. The animal that's often associated with it is coyote, and the human aspect, the aspect of human functioning would be the senses. And if you think about a child, like a young child or even a young animal, you know what this shield is about. It's about play, it's about spontaneity, it's about feeling as if there are no consequences. And if you think about that with a kid, there's no kid that thinks there's any consequences to his or her behavior until they're taught consequences. There's a sense of sort of never-ending summer. There's a sense also using the senses to learn, because every child gets down on the floor and touches things, puts things in their mouth. That's how children learn about the world. So the south shield is all about the child.
You call it a shield?
Well, the direction.
Okay.
It's sometimes called a shield. And the other sort of truth about the teachings of the medicine wheel is, say, you're talking about the south shield being the age and stage of childhood, it's also about, as an adult, we will go through the South Shield in the course of a day, in the course of a week, in the course of a month. In fact, we need the child aspect to create balance and to create health in ourselves. It's good medicine.
Okay.
In other words. So that's the South Shield. You want me to go around?
Sure.
Okay. So again, briefly, the West Shield in this particular wheel is the adolescent. The color is blue or black. And again, if you think about adolescents, often you'll see them wearing black, you know. It's the place of the, it's the water element, it's emotions, and the animal often associated with it is the black bear, who hibernates, who goes inward. So that tells you a little bit about the West Shield. It's the place of going inward. It's the place of asking really important life questions, like, who am I? What's my mission? How do I serve my community? Big questions like adolescents ask. That is an aspect of West Shield. It's also the place of the shadow, the unconscious aspects of the psyche. And when we are in the West Shield, whether as an adolescent or as an adult, and the psyche moves round to the West Shield, we will be exploring the shadow. We will be exploring our deep emotions that are somewhat hidden. We will be probably self-reflecting and going inward. That is the teaching, really, of the West Shield. It's also this place of soulfulness, the soul. It's the place where many poets draw inspiration for their poetry, you know, their deep poetry. West Shield is very rich and also a little bit scary because it's the place of the shadow. It's the place of unconscious elements.
I know those years of my life were pretty scary.
What?
But that's a whole other story.
What?
I said those years in my life were pretty scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Adolescent
Yeah.
years can be very scary. And it's the place of vision quest also, because in the old traditions, they knew that adolescents had to have a rite of passage at that age. You had to catch them at that age when they were going inward, when they were asking the really big questions, when they were feeling their emotions really deeply, even archetypally. That was the time for a rite of passage.
You want to define rite of passage?
It's the passage between the adolescent or West Shield into the adult stage, which is here in the north, the white.
So it's ceremonial, it signifies something, it says, okay, it's time to grow up, like my parents used to say.
Yes, and in our culture, that's the message we often got, right? Or get as adolescents. Just grow up.
Yes.
But what's not recognized so much in modern culture is the need to dig deep during that period in order to grow up. We don't have ceremonies or good rites of passage oftentimes for the adolescent to go deep into themselves, ask the important questions, and come out the other side as functional adults. We all end up as adults, but sometimes we kind of still have one foot in adolescence or even childhood because we haven't had a really profound rite of passage at the right time of life, which is adolescence.
Is that the, would you know, is that the basis of, you know, in Judaism, the bar mitzvah, in I guess some Christian denominations, the confirmations, those things are...
We do have some ritualistic rites of passage kinds of things. Even getting your driver's license can be a kind of ritual. Even some kids will, the more destructive way of having a rite of passage might be to, say, join a gang or engage in drugs and alcohol, that kind of thing. Kids are trying to initiate themselves.
Yeah.
They're trying to have a rite of passage.
Trying to grow up.
They are trying to find their way through that passage, which can be very scary, as you said. And then, but we don't have adults and elders holding a ceremonial space, a safe place, way for them to do that. And they need to confront, oftentimes, something scary, something like an ordeal, even something that appears to have life-threatening elements in it, because that's the nature of the passage that they're going through. So the old cultures knew that about the psyche at that stage of life. And so they provided hard things, scary things, even things that appeared to be life-threatening, so that the adolescent psyche could come up against that and know their own courage and know more about who they were so they could enter into adulthood.
So now instead of an internal demonstration of the passage, it really becomes external. They see people doing drugs, smoking, having sex. Well, I'm going to be an adult. I'm going to do that with no understanding of what's really going on inside.
Not enough understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, I think many of our adolescents are pretty astute and they figure some of this stuff out, but they don't, truthfully, they don't have enough inspired and wise elders holding that space for them in a ceremonial way. I mean, really, it's funny, you know, I'll give you an example, okay? One of our Navajo teachers who was raised traditional, she told us that her rite of passage when she was 12 or 13, was her grandmother, who was very traditional, took the young girls into the sweat lodge, and it was middle of winter, and they were, oh, this is great, it's middle of winter, we get to go in the sweat lodge, and they were getting all hot, and they had very light clothing on, and at a certain point, the elders, the grandmothers, basically threw the girls out in the snow and said, you have to run 2 miles before we're going to let you back in here. Okay? And if you know, the Navajo reservation gets really cold in the winter. So that was one aspect of their rite of passage as adolescent girls, was to run 2 miles and come before they were allowed back into the warmth. Well, that's hard. And she said it was really cold, it was really hard. But it has that ordeal aspect. It has that, it was ceremonial, and it was also an ordeal.
Is it also not a demonstration of the surrender of the self, so to speak? I'm going to get out of self as an adolescent and start taking guidance from somebody?
The guidance is really important. Yeah, the guidance is really important. Feeling held by somebody who's older and wiser than you is an important aspect of this passage, which our adolescents sometimes, when they're trying to initiate themselves in these ways, they don't have that.
Yeah.
So they're just out there trying stuff, and they don't really have anybody holding the space for them to move through that passage.
I mean, I don't want to get too far off the topic and get into whole kind of sociology stuff, but it's also about the breakdown of the family, the clan. I mean, this doesn't happen just because you have 4 people who live in the same household. It's about a whole, like, what is it? You need a tribe to raise a child or something, I think is the phrase.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
That you have something to add and something to give, and we've kind of lost that. So we're looking for parents to give some kind of guidance that they never got, which is going to be...
Mm-hmm. And parents do the best they can.
Yeah.
Teachers do the best they can. We all do the best we can with our kids. There's no question. And yet there are some elements missing.
They're missing, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not given a complete book, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay,
right.
What do I do here?
And many people now are coming to understand this rite of passage thing, and to learn to facilitate different kinds of rites of passage for kids, because it's really important, and it's starting to come back into the culture.
Yeah. Definitely needed.
Wilderness therapy, for example, there's various outfits around the country that do wilderness therapy, and they often incorporate some of these rites of passage ceremonies because they understand the kids need it.
Yes. So I think we're up to the north
so
shield.
Once you make it to adulthood, if you live through the the West Shield.
Good qualification.
One of the elements, just to back up momentarily, one of the elements for making this passage through to true adulthood is you have to confront what's sometimes called the demon at the gate. And that's just kind of a humorous reference to the fact that we have a lot of self-judgment or judgment of others, and in particular self-judgment for the adolescent. Kids are so hard on themselves, so there has to be also a confrontation of the self-judgment.
Okay.
And basically saying, no, that isn't true about me. No matter how I was treated as a child, that isn't true about me. what is true about me is something else. And so really the mission on a vision quest is to find out what that something else is. And I'll give you a really good example of how one girl went on vision quest and came into her adulthood. She went out on her vision quest, young girl, she was young, 13 or so. She, during that time alone, she came to realize all of the negative things that she had taken on as true. And you know, the way kids talk about themselves. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm no good, all that. So she heard all of that. She actually wrote it down in her journal. And then she burned it. And then when she came back to base camp on day 4 or day 5, she was able to tell us all of the things that were actually true about her. She said, I know I'm attractive. I know I'm smart. I know I'm kind. I know I'm talented in these different ways. She could actually enumerate, and it was not just merely intellectual. She felt it. She really experienced it. So when you enter into the North, which is adulthood, true adulthood, you're coming in with a really strong sense not only of your gifts, who you are in a deeper sense, but also self-compassion, which then translates as compassion for others. And you probably will not just take any old job. You know, somebody who's come through a rite of passage of whatever variety, a true rite of passage into adulthood means they know who they are, and they will try to manifest in their work life that sense of mission and who they really are. So, for example, if somebody stumbles back into their creativity, they're going to find a way to be creative in the way they earn money. They won't be satisfied with just some routine job. So that's a really important, and then the second really important aspect of adulthood, the North Shield, is that we bring our talents into the community in a way that is of service. Mm-hmm. So the service aspect, compassionate service, becomes a hallmark of the true adult. And it takes a rite of passage to get there.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. So, of course, adulthood is about getting up in the morning and making sure you get places on time and paying your bills and feeding the kids. Of course, it always is in every culture. And what we've learned from our indigenous teachers is it has a lot more depth to it than that.
I want to just pop in and ask you another question, because you said something triggered a couple of thoughts. There's no limit to how many vision quests somebody should do?
No, there might be. You might be involved in a tradition where you would commit to 4, for example, 4 in a row, 4 years in a row.
Okay.
That might be one way to do it. The way I teach it is you're probably going to want to do another one in about a year, because the psyche tends to integrate what was learned out there in about 10, 12 months. So if you pay attention, you almost find that place in you that wants to do it again.
Are there, we're talking about these different shields, different directions. Are there ages of transformation, or is it just each person is in their own development?
Well, the West Shield is probably where the most profound and obvious transformation takes place, and that's when you're an adolescent. Okay, that's 13 to 20 or something like that. But truthfully, because the psyche goes around the medicine wheel in the course of a day, week, month, or year, or 10 years, you could find yourself in the West Shield and you're 45 years old. And you feel like, you think, what's this, what's happening here? I feel like I'm an adolescent and I don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then that might be an appropriate time for a vision quest.
Okay. And now we've come to
the East Shield.
East Shield.
That is the elder and also the infant. It's death. It's the place of death and rebirth in this particular wheel, and it's the place where you are very open to spirit. You're very open to the sense of oneness. It's a place of transcendence, and it's a place of, well, the color is gold or yellow. The animal that's associated with it oftentimes is the eagle, and it is the place of spirit. Okay, so it's wide open, it's creative. The creative artist is going to spend a lot of time in the East Shield.
I got so many questions. We're not going to have enough time. Let me bounce two of them right away. When you create a medicine wheel, I mean, here it's very compact. When you're out on a vision quest, when you're in this group getting ready to go, I mean, is it something used that somebody gets into, or is it something that we just sit and look at like we're doing right now?
We put a big one out on the, we make a big one out on the ground.
Okay, and then everybody gets inside of it individually, collectively?
We smudge people out from the center of the wheel. That's just the way we set up the ceremony. For when they are ready to go out on their solo, they'll step into the center of the wheel. One of the leaders will step in with them and smudge them out, make some prayers, and then they step out and they're in spirit from
And so it's one at a time, basically.
One at a time. That's how we do it, yeah.
Okay. Totally separate question. When you were talking about that, I know you had mentioned having a Vedic background. And I don't remember the exact terminologies, but there are 4 phases into that Vedic look at in life, you know, and it almost mimics this, especially that last cycle where, I forget what they call it, but they talk about, you know, you just basically you get your bowl, your staff, and you go out into the wilderness and let nature take care of you.
Right.
I mean, so I guess my question is, are these all coming from the same roots that?
Well, I mean, shamanism preceded Vedic culture.
Vedic long, yeah.
So I'm sure that as culture evolved, you know, it borrowed or utilized or transformed some of the shamanic roots. East Shield is transcendence, you know. East Shield is where, not where you would do meditation as a form, that would be more North Shield. You know, as, like, say you discipline yourself to meditate an hour a day or every morning, every evening. That discipline of meditation is North Shield. It's structured. It's how you be an adult as a spiritual person, so to speak. East Shield functioning would be the wandering sadhu in India.
Exactly.
Where you are in the oneness and things come to you as needed. There's food for you somewhere and there's a shelter for you somewhere.
Yeah,
but
the belief that spirit will always take care of us.
It's not even a belief. It is an actual experience, because in the East Shield, you are in the oneness.
Yeah.
Okay? That would be the teaching shamanically as well.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to trees would not be considered strange if you're in the East Shield.
Okay.
It is normal, you know, like, and the trees answer you back.
Yes.
Okay.
We got a few minutes before we're going to have to put a wrap. So we got through 1 and 2. What's stage 3?
Oh, that's incorporation.
Okay.
That's the reason you go out on Vision Quest, is to incorporate. Incorporate means to come back into your body, to embody whatever the learning was out there, whatever the transformation was out there. So you're embodying your transformation or your learnings or your insights or your visions, and you're taking them back to serve your community. The reason for a Vision Quest is to serve, ultimately to serve the community in a more full way.
Quickly, kind of, what is, you guide these people through this whole process. What is your role at the end part? Do you sit down and talk with them about what they've experienced and help them get a handle on it, so to speak?
Yeah. As they come back on the morning of day 5, first they eat something very light. Then later in that day we will convene in a circle again, and people will tell parts of their stories. Some parts of the story, some things that may have happened to them they will want to keep to themselves, and some are meant to be shared. And we'll mirror their stories for them, and then we'll help them as best we can to see how that incorporation is going to take place when they get back to their families and their jobs and their communities.
Fascinating. I want to just make a couple announcements. We're going to come back with a parting thought, and we'll probably still have a little bit of time left and we'll chat, but let me just get a couple announcements in. But also, just they should be flashing your information as we've been talking, so people want to get a hold of you, more information, sign up for Vision Quest. The information that they're flashing will allow them to do that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And just to let everybody know that the show, I do this show on a weekly basis. If there's anything, questions you have, any topics you'd like to see explored, my information has also been flashed on the screen. Feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you want to talk about something we've talked about. Maybe you have an idea for a show. I'd love to hear it. Also, I'm also a counselor, and as a minister, I do what I call spiritual counseling. So anybody interested in having life problems and looking for a spiritual solution to them, contact me. I don't charge. My work is basically on a donation basis. That's my path here, so to speak. So, give me a call. We can talk about it. We can come into my office. We can talk some more about it. Next week, we're going to have a show with Dr. Yolanda Briscoe and Jane Davis, and probably going to get a little radical on that show, but we're going to talk about what's wrong with the current justice system and criminal system, and what we can do to add spirituality and incorporate the new understandings that science has been giving us to maybe get a more effective system in place. So that'll be next week. We got a couple minutes left. You got a parting thought for us?
Yeah, everybody needs a vision quest.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. And once you do one, you're going to want more than one.
Likely.
Yeah.
It's likely.
That's wonderful. I thank you so much for being here, and
thank you very much.
I hope everybody enjoyed this as much as I did. I think it's been fascinating. This is something that, we know a lot about traditional religions and traditional practices, and we hear a lot about a vision quest. That's why when I saw that mailer, I said, I got to get this woman on the show, and I'm so glad you agreed to do it, because I think, we've just put some understandings to people to, takes it out of the not knowing, and just now they know what it is, not to be putting it off as something kind of, I hate to use the term foo-foo, new agey. This is not new agey. This goes back thousands of years, and it's about self-realization, it's about self-understanding, and then the manifestation of that self.
Mm-hmm. Well said. That's true.
So I think we're just going to say goodbye. So thank you for tuning in. Know that you have the power to set your own intentions. You have the power of your beliefs to set your life, and use it. That's what we're here to do, is to show you the variety of ways that you can add and increase the spiritual content of your life. So until next week, know that you are what you think you are, and you can change that at any moment. It's all about perception. Love and light to you all. I'm Reverend Phil, and I've been your host for Words of the Prophets. Thank you for tuning in. Please join me again next week, same time, same channel, for more Words of the Prophets.